Oklahoma is one of the most species-diverse states in the nation. Making sure opportunities exist for hunters, anglers, and all those who appreciate wildlife is not only our job.
It's our passion.
We are your Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation. From sunup to sundown, and sometimes all night long, the employees of our agency are relentless in their dedication to a job well done. The science behind wildlife conservation is constantly evolving, and our biologists are leading the way with groundbreaking and cutting-edge techniques that the entire scientific community benefits from. If that's not enough to make you proud, then consider this. We've been doing all this since our agency's birth in 1909, without using a dime of taxpayer money. That's because the Wildlife Department is designed as a user-pay, user-benefit agency. Its sportsmen and wildlife enthusiasts.
We'll call the meeting to order and welcome. Thank you for coming, and we're glad you're here. Since I'm not meeting in May, it's great to be back and also have all 8 of us here, and especially I want to welcome back Bill, Commissioner Brewster, who has been on an amazing journey, and we're just so tickled to have him back.
Thank you.
Okay. Rhonda, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Brewster.
Here.
Commissioner Barwick.
Here.
Commissioner Mabry.
Here.
Commissioner Holder.
Here.
Commissioner Zelps.
Here.
Commissioner Dillingham.
Here.
Commissioner Kane.
Good morning.
Commissioner Gaddis.
Here. Micah Holmes will lead us in the invocation and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
JD, would you introduce our guests, please?
Sure thing. We've got Rick Grumman with the foundation here. Good morning. Laura McIver, Quail Forever. Good to see you. Mr. and Mrs. Bill Starry. I just see the Mr., but she's out there. All right. And Tyler Talley with Quorum Call. Everybody else is employed by us.
Okay, welcome guests. And we've got some awards to present.
Yeah, the first one, the entire commission may want to participate in, but we certainly want to recognize that this is Commissioner Mabry's last official meeting with the commission after 20 years of service, and so a small plaque, token of our appreciation, doesn't really do justice to the 20 amazing years that you have dedicated to the business of this commission. I've only been here for about 5.5 of it myself, but it's certainly been a real pleasure and treat to be able to work under your steady hand and guidance and leadership over those years that I've been here, and I know everybody else feels the same way. Very much, everybody very much respects you, considers you to be not just a great representative of the folks in District 2, but all of our sportsmen and sportswomen statewide, and we appreciate your wise counsel and your great experience that you all often brought to the table, and I would say, barring anybody else, a great representative of the little guy and the little gal out there when it comes to making sure that we provide hunting and fishing opportunity to those that really aren't as well off as several other folks in the state, and making sure that they have those opportunities when it comes to public hunting lands and that sort of thing. I know you've been a strong and staunch advocate for that as well, so thank you for that. And this plaque says, to Bruce R. Mabry, Oklahoma Wildlife Conservation Commission, April 2002 through June 2022. in appreciation for your service and dedication to the sportsmen and women of Oklahoma and the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation. So, here's your plaque.
No. I'm hiding. It's kind of weird.
I learned that at least stuck my head.
I'll probably say a few words, but not much. Like I said, it's started in 2002, which is 20 years ago. Seems time flies. I've enjoyed every bit of it. It's one thing that I've always been passionate about, is being in the outdoors and conservation of the resources that we're responsible for overseeing. I've enjoyed being the District 2 Wildlife Commissioner. It's got to meet a lot of great people and law enforcement and other departments and agencies as well, since I've been on here. But I think it's a great organization, and I'm glad that I've been a part of that. And thank you for this recognition. It means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to add that it has been a privilege and honor and totally enjoyment to work alongside you. And I know that the rest of the commission, I'm sure, feels the same, that it's nice to be with someone that has such a heart for conservation. We'll appreciate that.
Bruce, I want to thank you for your service also. You've been a great mentor to me. We're kind of the old timers now. I guess Jim Barwick, he represented us and helped us for a long time. He's been here, but you've been a great leader for this organization, and
Thank you very
I'm awful proud that there's a legacy member coming that's gonna be joining us soon. So thank you, Bruce.
And Bruce, it's been a pleasure serving with you, and you've always been there when we needed you, and we appreciate that. And I can't think of anybody that's more passionate about hunting than you. You'll be missed.
Ditto.
Ready for the next one on the agenda?
Ready for the
Okay.
next one, yeah.
So next on the agenda, our social media team. So you may have heard a little bit about our raging Twitter account. We also have several other social media accounts, but most recently, our social media team was awarded the Golden, what was it called? Golden Post Award. Oh, it says right here. Read, JD. Golden Post Award. I was like, that sounds familiar. Golden Post Award at the Government Social Media Conference this spring, which was held in Dallas, and there were literally hundreds of government organizations, from huge federal agencies to small municipal governments there, where they gather at this conference every year to learn from each other on best practices in social media. Their headline event, of course, is the award ceremony. They've got 10 different categories with over 400 entrants for those awards. And the department was awarded the coveted Best Social Media Presence on Twitter. And I know we're going to have some discussion about it probably a little later in the agenda. But anyway, this isn't the first award they've won. They were also awarded first place in social media presence from the Association for Conservation Information, which is kind of wildlife and natural resource agencies information organization. But we want to be sure and recognize our social media team, which is Sarah Sutherland. Stand up, please. Todd Craig Head, Daniel Griffith, Smokey Solis, Whitney Heskett, and then also some significant contributors to the content that we post, Darren Hill and Gina Donnell. I'm not sure she's here, but some cool stats real quick, and then we'll take a picture, y'all, with this award. We had probably less than 10,000 followers on Twitter in 2020. Now we're up to it changes daily, maybe even over at this point, 63,000 followers. This year we've posted 418 tweets. They received more than 1 million retweets, replies, quotes, and likes. The most engaging tweet was not the mountain lion tweet, it started with that, but the most engaging one here recently was the post that says, "Listen, bear spray does not work like bug spray. We'd like to not have to say that again." So it was all the rage. And I know there was a Daily Oklahoman article, I think yesterday, in the Sunday Oklahoman about the department's social media and Twitter presence. It's always a great reminder for folks. Some folks don't understand why we do silly things on social media, but when you have that kind of engagement, you're engaging lots of new people that we haven't really reached before. And I know that our team uses kind of the jab, jab, hook approach, which is, you jab them with some funny stuff. I don't think that's mine going off up there. You engage folks with some zany posts, and then you follow up with something informational that teaches them something about what we do in hunting and fishing and outdoor recreation. So, to the social media team, congratulations and thanks for all your great work.
Great. Congratulations, social media team. That's awesome. Would you like us to move?
Would somebody help with Nell's tie?
Do you want us to?
We've been in the wilderness. Back in civilization, Nell.
Don, would you like? I feel like we shouldn't be here. Would it help if we were gone? I don't think he's hearing.
Good job, everybody.
Better than my head sticking out.
That was, that's why I was right in between them.
I know. I was hiding.
All right. Thank you, JD. And Nels Rutherford next on presentation.
So that's a great intro. Like JD said, social media is one platform. It's one of the platforms that we use to communicate with people and provide information. But we're going to talk to you today about another one of our important channels, if you will, which is Outdoor Oklahoma. And the Outdoor Oklahoma brand, if you will, takes in our TV show. We have a magazine, which I'm sure you're familiar with, and then we do have a blog, which is called the Outdoor Oklahoma Journal. And specifically, we try to strategically use each of those tools, just like we strategically try to use each of our social media tools, to make sure that folks are getting the information in the format that they want and in a manner that they want. Because when you deliver information to somebody that they want in the way they want, they actually consume that versus trying to reach somebody in a manner that they don't want to be reached in. They're probably not. It's probably going to be a ricochet, right? And we do like to point out that the information often overlaps in all of our outlets. We do know it takes sometimes multiple times of hearing something or seeing something before it sinks in. And it's a more efficient use of our staff time. If we're able to produce something, we share it here, but also use it here, also use it in the magazine, for example. We feel like that's an important to point out. And our favorite stories to tell are those of our ODWC colleagues, the people that are actually out there doing the work, doing the research, doing the management, doing the enforcement. These are the folks that are actually the boots on the ground making things happen, and it's a pleasure to tell those stories, and we want to say thank you to all of our coworkers for helping us by providing content, by being engaged, reaching out to us when they have an idea. So today Don Brown and Todd Craighead are going to be talking to you and sharing information. I would like to just provide a brief intro there. Don Brown came to us from the Daily Oklahoman. Don's been here almost 10 years. is a consummate professional, a true workhorse. Print does massive amounts of quantity in the print world for us, writing. Also very high level of quality work. So, and is especially keen on when we need some assistance writing up something that's going to get some media attention, or to send to the media in specific, you know, we go to Don. And Todd Craighead has been with the department 27 years and has had numerous roles within communications and education, but more than a decade, maybe even 15 years worth now, focused on video production and outdoor Oklahoma television program. So with that, Don?
Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be able to talk to the commission today about something very passionate to me, is Outdoor Oklahoma Magazine. And we'll start out with, what are the goals of the magazine? You know, the magazine has always been the flagship communication outlet for the department, and it has a rich historic role with us. Of course, the goal is to inform the public about all aspects of what we do. We want to try to build the favorable public perception of everything we do and who we are. We maintain a high quality. We try to produce the best publication we can within our constraints, and I think we do that, and I think that reflects on what kind of operation we have here at the department. And of course, like all of our communication efforts, we try to encourage public support for our mission, our wildlife conservation and outdoor activities. I'll mention that the magazine, the editor is Nels. Micah Holmes and Kelly Adams are managing editors, and I'm kind of the chief cook and bottle washer there. I kind of handle the nuts and bolts of producing the bi-monthly magazine. So, a little history. The magazine's been around for 77 years, and honestly, that's a lot longer than many, many magazines around the country. We started right at the end of World War II in 1945. You can see that that's the first magazine cover right there, and it was called Oklahoma Game and Fish News back then. Of course, in 1957, it changed its name again to Oklahoma Wildlife. And then from 1965 to now, we've been known as Outdoor Oklahoma. And I'll talk a little bit about the magazine's reach. We have subscribers in all 50 states. We have about 10,000 subscribers now, and each of those issues, on average, gets read by about 2.5 people. So we have a reach of about 25,000 people with the magazine. You know, one interesting thing, and I'll relate this, a personal story. I grew up here in Oklahoma, and my dad always had a copy of Outdoor Oklahoma on the coffee table. And I grew up reading it, and you know, one of these items here, it becomes part of a home's decor. That magazine has a shelf life of, I don't know, 3 or 4 months sitting out on your coffee table or in a doctor's office. So our message is out there, and it does get seen. Of course, the publishing industry has kind of had some trouble in the past, I don't know, decade or two, printing industry, but we remain fairly strong, and what's encouraging is surveys show that younger people now, 25 and younger, say that 90% of them say they like to read magazines. So maybe that speaks well to our future as well. We have we have a web page on our website for the magazine, and so far this year we've had 8,000 unique users look at that. And since 2020, one of my big projects when I came on board, that became a reality when we were able to put all of our magazines into a digital archive that is accessible on our website. So you can go back there and thumb through issues from the 40s and 50s, and it's really some interesting stuff back then. I'm also going to talk today about the second prong, if you will, of our Outdoor Oklahoma platform, and that would be our journal, which is our web blog, or blog as people know them. Our goals, Michael Bergen was the staff member who sort of spearheads the journal, and the goals of our journal are to increase the reach of our content that we produce in the Communication and Education Division. It's a place where we can put all of that content into one searchable area, and it's online. Anyone can access it. Because it's online, we can use it to generate traffic into other parts of the website, and perhaps one of the most important functions of our journal is that Michael can use the journal as a place to steer people in his marketing efforts for the agency. We can reach new people and create additional revenue using the journal online. And here are a couple of screenshots off of our website of the journal. You can see right up here, you know, it's broken into different sections: hunting, fishing, wildlife, and then there's all kinds of different content, stories and things. The journal launched in 2020, so it's one of our newest tools that we use to communicate. And it's easily searchable. You can see over here on the right side, there's a drop-down menu, and you can choose whatever type of article that interests you to read about. In less than 2 years, the blog and Michael's email strategies have captured more than $650,000 in revenue for the department. So we're real proud of that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Todd for the third prong.
Well, good morning. Yes, the third branch of the Outdoor Oklahoma brand is the television show. It's actually been on television since the early 40s, which is amazing to think in this industry. We've had a long, rich history that we're very proud to still continue to carry the torch for. Today, we have 3 producers: Blake Podasky, Darren Hill, and myself. And each time that we produce an episode, we kind of have a few certain goals in mind. The first is just simply to instill an appreciation and an awareness of our state's incredible natural resources and the ODWC's role. And that's very important because we want viewers to make the connection between wildlife and the wildlife department. We also create and maintain ODWC's relevancy for all Oklahomans with each episode. Once again, we want to point our viewers back to the agency and separate us away from the pack as not just being another hunting and fishing television show, but actually the authority on wildlife. And then lastly, we're proud to showcase everyday sportsmen and conservationists on a regular basis. By not using celebrities or big names all the time, it allows the viewers to subliminally connect themselves to that activity and realize that maybe this is something I could even see myself doing. With the television's reach, this modern era that we're in now, the 3 of us producers produce about 18 new episodes a year, and those are viewed on a variety of different impressive platforms there. The most significant thing is that all the exposure on the outlets on television and YouTube for Outdoor Oklahoma don't cost the wildlife department anything. They're all free, and in fact, that's probably very rare in this industry, and we may be one of the only states that can say their wildlife show has that broad of a reach without having to pay for any airtime. Our television show's relevancy is extremely important to us as well, because the show reaches well beyond just our constituency. Unlike most all the other different outlets that we have to connect with folks, all those other outlets, the constituents are initiating the contact with us and the interaction. But Outdoor Oklahoma is in the homes of literally tens, if not hundreds of thousands of non-constituents every week. So we keep that in mind when we're putting together a show, that this is potentially not our typical constituent. The YouTube content is also extremely relevant and becomes even more so every year. It's regularly used by our own staff in presentations, but even just a couple weeks ago, I had a friend text me who said that her daughter came home from school and was all excited because in 6th grade science class, they watched an episode of Outdoor Oklahoma in school. The multi-generational appeal is extremely relevant because that is also very rare in this industry. It was about last summer, Blake and I were at South Lakes Park Pond videoing a segment, and an older gentleman came up and recognized us and was so excited to tell us that he was there that day at South Lakes because he saw an episode that Darren produced, and then it inspired him to give it a try. It was Tenkara fishing. And so he went out and bought himself a license and equipment and brought his 8 or 9-year-old grandson with him. And probably the most important thing, or most special thing to us, was that he said that has now become a tradition for him and his grandson every week. So we're hitting multi-generations with every episode. And then the show is also critically acclaimed within our peers in the industry as well. It's won countless awards, but also it's gained the respect of other cohorts in other states that frequently come to us with wanting advice and helping them get on the right track with their shows. I hope that you're as proud today as we are of the quality and the legacy of the Outdoor Oklahoma brand with the Wildlife Department. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to try to answer them.
Todd, is there any possibility of putting these shows, the historical shows like Don's done with the magazine on the internet?
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that because we do have quite a few and are actively all the time uploading newer shows that we have digitally archived.
How far back do you think you can go?
Well, actually, just about a month ago, Darren...
A couple back in the 80s that I'd like to look at again.
Well, Darren used a segment in our new format of the television show. We try to have a short segment every week that is what we call a classic. And Darren used one of releasing geese, was that it? In 1943. And we use that on the show. And it's on YouTube, is on the channel as well.
Well, you guys do great work, so appreciate that.
Yes, great work. Thank you. And,
Thank
you know, I have to say, I too grew up in a house where the show was always on, I think, Sundays. Sunday mornings, and without fail, every Sunday it was going. I mean, you just great outreach and great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we look at those episodes from the 80s, and I guess we're classics, right?
Hey, Don, I have a question.
I remember that one.
Don, I have a question for you. Do the other states have magazines like we do?
Most wildlife departments do have magazines, and ours is a little, well, I should say, a lot of states are different from us in that they get tax funding and things like that, where sometimes licensed buyers just automatically receive a magazine. We're still on a subscription type basis here, but yes, most states do have their own magazines.
On your drop down thing when you go on the internet, can you add the foundation on there?
Oh, for the blog? Sure, yeah, I think we can.
What about the show, the TV outreach? Do other states, are we among many states that have that, or?
There are fewer states that have a regular scheduled set program like we do. Many states have video or production teams within their agency, but we are one of the last strongholds of an actual regular show that's scheduled every week on public television.
Wow, that's cool. Great work.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is consideration to vote, and a vote to approve, amend, reject, or take other action on the April meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Brewster,
Aye.
Commissioner Barwick,
Aye.
Commissioner Mabry,
Aye.
Commissioner Holder,
Aye.
Commissioner Zelps, Commissioner Dillingham,
Aye.
Commissioner Kane, Commissioner Gaddis.
Aye. And our director's report is next.
Thank you. I did miss, my bad, introducing guests. I guess he's not quite a guest because he's officially appointed, but Mark Mabry is with us today as well, who's the incoming commissioner for District 2. So
Welcome.
thank you for being here. I also, just those last couple of agenda items on the social media teams awards and then magazine TV show, I think it's worth recognizing. Of course, all that is within Nell's and Micah's shop, the C&E division, but we have Kelly Adams with us at the back. Wave, Kelly, who's in charge of that entire communications section. So great work to you, Kelly, supervising the whole lot. So, Corey, let's start with you in the director's report, as we now have an adjourned legislature. Although they're in special session, it's only on specific items that don't include wildlife, at least as far as we know. So we have a newly adjourned legislative session. Corey.
That's the best part of my report. Legislature is adjourned. I'm probably just going to share with you the bills that passed this session, because there are a couple. They're all, I think, listed in your director's report, but I'll run through them real quick. The first one is House Bill 3639. This recreates some of the youth non-resident deer licenses that existed a couple years ago. So we've seen them before, and I think they're actually already active in our system right now because it had an emergency on it. So that's a $30 doe tag, $100 either sex tag, and then it actually bumps the season license back up to $300, which is probably what adults are going to end up buying, but it is also available to non-resident youth, but that's just non-resident changes on deer season. The second one is House Bill 3640. This just increases penalties on WMAs. I think it went from $25 minimum to $100 minimum, and then up to $1,000. So no major changes, and that goes into effect next month. House Bill 4281, this was the request from the USDA Wildlife Services folks that set traps for coyotes. The law currently states that they have to post signs at every single corner of a property and all entrances to the property, and it becomes a little bit onerous to try to work some of those bigger properties, especially when landowners aren't present. And so we just struck the requirement that they have to post on the corners of the property. So they'll still have to post at the entrances, but just simplifies their work. They're the only ones that can set those traps for coyotes, and that goes into effect in November. We have Senate Bill 1571. It allows for the use of air bows during any season where rifles are legal. I know some of our staff are working on some administrative rules to kind of clarify what that means. I think the intent was for deer season, but technically I think it would actually apply for other animals that rifles are legal for. Yes. And it also creates, because there is not an excise tax on air bows, like there are with firearms and traditional bows and archery equipment, it creates a $20 permit one time that's required for anybody that wants to hunt with an air bow. And I believe because that was also an emergency, that permit is live. Mike's not here, so I can't verify, but we'll probably have administrative rules just to clarify that, but I think the law is pretty clear you need it to hunt. So you'll probably see some rules on that at your next commission meeting. Then we have Senate Bill 1696. This creates 365-day 365-day hunting, combo, and fishing licenses. Because hunting licenses had fiscal year pricing that was a little bit higher than our calendar year pricing, the fiscal year pricing applies to the hunting and combo licenses, so we'll see a little bit of a price change on those licenses. And then fishing licenses would stay the same price, so $25 for a 365-day license. Those go into effect in November. And the last one that passed is Senate Bill 1809. It allows landowners on ag properties to deal with nuisance coyotes and hogs at night without a permit, except during deer gun season, and then it significantly increases the penalties for night poaching, very significantly. So that's it. Unfortunately, I'm sure you guys all know that the license stuff just kind of didn't work out this year. And I'm sure we'll try again something next year. We'll probably get together and figure out how we're going to handle that. And that's, I think, it. I don't think there's anything else. So,
any questions on legislative stuff? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Corey.
Corey.
So you'll see more information in the director's report in your packet. I'll probably try to keep it a little shorter than usual today, as we've got a pretty packed agenda. So I'll just let you read through that at your leisure. You will see there on page 2 a summary of the Finding Pathways to Increasing Conservation Relevancy grant project that we and several other states are part of, that we launched in the last month. So we're looking forward to participating in that grant project, which allows us to tap into some national resources to talk about ways that we as an agency can ensure that we are adapting and changing and being more relevant to today's society around us, without, of course, abandoning our base, if you will, which is the passionate hunters and anglers that are out there. So lots of stuff going on in admin division, fisheries division, still stocking, doing lots of work across the state. I will mention that a project that we're doing in partnership with the foundation, and Rick may mention this later, but on Thursday of last week, over 90,000 tiger bass, they're called, but they're essentially Florida crossed with northern largemouth bass, first generation bass that were stocked in Grand Lake in the first year of what we hope will at least be a 5-year project. But that was the foundation helped fundraise for that. Kevin Van Dam, professional angler, put up the first 5,000 and really kind of kicked that project off. So we thank him and the foundation for their efforts to stock this particular strain of bass that our fisheries biologists think will be particularly well suited for Grand Lake, being a more northern, cooler climate lake. And we look forward to seeing, hopefully, those bass take off and become big and provide some bigger genetics for Grand Lake. Lots of stuff going on in C&E division. Of course, we've spent time on the social media as well as the other Outdoor Oklahoma outlets today. Lots of work in wildlife division on wildlife management areas, of course, with a lot of flooding, particularly in eastern Oklahoma, lots of issues to deal with, road repair and that sort of thing there. And law enforcement division is in high gear as usual with close of spring turkey season, of course, but also with the fishing seasons really kicking off. And recently, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but we did have Game Warden Riley Willman from District 1 down to be recognized by the House and the Senate for his his life-saving efforts to save a guy that really had drowned in Flint Creek as a result of high flows and had gotten sucked into a wicked eddy from those flows. And Riley jumped into action, dove in, pulled the guy out. He did not have a pulse, so Riley performed CPR, brought the guy back to life essentially, and then kept him pumping, if you will, until the paramedics got there to save the guy. And the guy's alive today thanks to Riley Willman, so kudos to him for his life-saving efforts up in District 1 in Delaware County. And he's not here to be recognized, but I think at the next commission meeting, we're going to recognize him as well as several other wardens that have saved lives over the last 12 months. There's at least 3 or 4 more that I'm aware of. So we'll bring them back all to be recognized and honored then. Also in your packet, you've got our federal, congressional, federal government report from Brittany. Lots of stuff going on budget-wise, so I'll let you read through that. Has been some activity on Recovering America's Wildlife Act, which we've been following for a couple of years now. It looks like it's got more traction than ever. There was a hearing in Senate Environment and Public Works Committee where they marked up the bill, did add one amendment that we were made aware of that actually probably helps us out more than anything, and that is if it does pass, and it does bring roughly $17 million of new money to the agency to work on non-game issues, and it requires a 25% match like most of our grant money, which is a huge struggle for us, as we'll talk about when we get to the budget here soon. But it does allow a 4-year phase-in of that, so it's kind of a slower ramp-up if it does pass. So we will see what happens in the fall term and hope that it passes and brings new money to our state and many other states for work on non-game issues. And with that, I'll just see if there are any questions.
Any questions?
Oh, I do want to turn it to Rick, too, for a quick update on, from the foundation. Sorry, I about forgot that, Rick.
Thank you, JD. Commissioners, just a really quick update. You'll be seeing next week the save the date cards for our annual gala, which is going to be called the Call of the Wild, and it's honoring Larry Nichols from Devon Energy, Thursday evening, October 6th. So we'll be getting you information on that. If there's anybody you would like to be included on the mailing list, be happy to do that, provide that. We'll also have electronic versions of that available in the next week or so, so we can follow up with emails, letter writing, and to past sponsors. We'll follow up a couple, 3 weeks after that, and then we'll open up the general fundraising portion of it. But those that sponsored last year's event are getting the first shot at sponsorships and tables again this year. And wanted to provide you really quickly with just a few of the highlights of what the foundation was able to accomplish this year and support the department. We were an active participant and funder of the co-branding initiative with which resulted in the new logo and brand for the department, and the foundation was co-branded with that. So the secondary colors of the department are the primary colors of the foundation, and the badge, shield, whichever you want to call that, are very similar and are exactly the same except for the words. We purchased personal flotation devices for every game warden, provided the instant inflate PFDs for every game warden to bring new equipment to them. We provided 6 pneumatic dart guns to the bear team to be able to deal with nuisance bears. Thanks to Commissioner Brewster and his wife with the initial contribution to that, and we raised additional funds to purchase 6 pneumatic dart guns, and then we purchased online training for everybody on the bear team to work with a PhD on how to properly use the equipment and the best in class, how to handle the bears, treat them in a humane manner, ensure that their safety, which is very beneficial. I would like to relay when JD happened to be there at the time we presented the dart guns to the team, and it reminded me of like a 6-year-old kid getting their first BB gun at Christmas. It was, they were so excited. They said, we got to try this. You know, they broke it out, and
yeah, Eric there was one of them. He's still got a smile on his face.
And Jeff Ford relayed to me he wasn't too excited about the thought of the training, but in his 25, 30-year career, he said it was the most impactful training that he had had, and he learned more through that. So really happy to make that impact. We partnered with the department and OG&E to open up some of their power plant lakes to have family fishing events, provided fishing tackle to equipment. Chair Gaddis and myself worked with Leadership Oklahoma to bring in a sporting clay event fundraiser and gun safety opportunity to all of the Leadership Oklahoma group to make that more mainstream. And JD was able to we were able to set up an opportunity for JD to make a presentation to Youth Oklahoma, Leadership Oklahoma. So ensuring our future leaders are getting impacted by that. We provided several lifetime licenses, including for Rack Madness here at the department. And as JD said, we partnered with Kevin Van Dam, who put up the initial $5,000, and we raised $35,000 in about a week. That shows the excitement level of people being involved in that. And I was out there Thursday, and of the 93,000 2-inch tiger bass were stocked in Grand Lake in 3 different areas throughout the lake, 31,000 in each area, and very well thought out plan by JD's team in the fisheries department that they were stocked in areas where there's a 25-year life example of electro surveys, and it's one of their standard areas, so they're going to be able to track the genetics of this going forward in 3 distinct areas in the lake. Those are just a few of them. We really appreciate the opportunity to work with the team here, and I'm available for any questions.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Rick. Lots of good stuff going on with the foundation. I encourage everybody to get your tickets for the gala. I think it'll be a good event, a great event. Okay, so next we've got Amanda Stork with the financials.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today I have for you the financial statements for April 30th, 2022.
There it is.
Okay. All right, our first report is the combined balance sheet for all fund types and account groups. So for April 30th, 2022, our liabilities and fund balance is $463,191,060. Our total liabilities being $1,189,050, and our total fund balance being $462,002,010 compared to last year of $264,265,483. Our combined balance sheet for all trust funds, in our expendable trust fund, our balance is $31,155,878. Our non-expendable trust fund balance is $99,411,673. Our pension trust is $126,695,561. Our DC trust is $5,907,598 for a total of $263,170,710, and that's compared to last year of $286,482,600. So I'll stop and note here the decrease in the expendable trust balance from $39 million last time we met to $31 million makes up a big part of that difference, but that's due to the volatility of the market right now.
Yeah, so just to put a finer point, we lost about $8 million in the expendable portion of the lifetime trust fund just in the last couple of months due to stock market declines. So it's worth keeping that in mind as we get into the budget presentation for next fiscal year next.
Our next report is the combined statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance through April 30th, 2022. So our total revenues are $46,218,500. That's an increase of 3.25% from last year. Our total expenditures is $52,208,856. It's an increase of 17.74% from last year. And our fund balance as of April 30th is $50,954,263, and that's a decrease of 16.23% from last year. Our combined statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance for our trust funds, our operating revenue for the month is a negative $4,609,861. Our operating income is a negative $12,060,602. Our total fund balance is $232,014,832. Compared with last year, $241,887,311. And then for our wildlife contributions, we have a total of $7,705. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Amanda? We have a motion. Do we have a second? Roll call.
Commissioner Brewster.
Aye.
Commissioner Barwick. Commissioner Mabry.
Aye.
Commissioner Holder. Commissioner Zelps.
Aye.
Commissioner Dillingham. Commissioner Kane. Commissioner Gaddis.
Aye. And Amanda, you have a budget to present.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Nobody but the CFO.
So I'll just kind of get started on our budget preparation timeline. So we kicked off the process April 4th with the budget team and had them start working on their zero-based budgets. There's several checkpoints along the way, but we did have a May 5th deadline for add-ons where we look at everything that was added onto the budget from the prior year. So that exercise led us to a $135 million budget, to which we had to go back in and get back down to match our revenues. So we finalized the budget on May 25th and then got that information to the committee on May 27th. We met as a committee last Thursday on June 2nd, and then here we are. So lots of hard work put in. I want to say thank you to Lindsay first and foremost, but all the divisions that worked with us for the past few months to get us to this point. And so, how was your weekend?
We have Jeopardy music.
I would like our minutes to reflect that we were provided in writing detailed summaries of of the budget, and of course, our committee went through it for several hours the other day. Because I don't know if we're going to get this up or not, but there you go.
Yay, okay. So I'm going to talk to you all at a very high level about our budget presentation for this year. So overall, our total budget for our divisions only, after revisions last year, our FY22 budget total was $81,662,318. Our proposed budget in front of you today is $99,242,642, and that's an increase of 21.5%. We have it broken down into salary and benefits at the top, and then operations in the middle, and then capital expenditures there at the bottom. Details going into each of the divisions' budgets. So for administration, this is going to include all of our add-ons from last year, changes from last year to this year's budget. So that includes an auditor and inspector performance audit that we are informed we will be having this fiscal year that we have to pay for. So that includes $30,000 for the A&I performance audit. It also includes Arcadia Internet project. So all of the IT expenditures for our agency are located in the admin budget for all the divisions. And then uniform starter kits. We were unable to get the uniform committee wrapped up this fiscal year to order uniforms, so that's being moved into next year's budgets. And then also a 3-month double fill for the property manager to make sure that that person knows how to do our auctions and do truck purchases and some other big things that Johnny does. So for Wildlife Division, the budget proposal for 2023 is $16,838,516. And that's going to include additions from last year of McGee Creek bathroom project, some department housing improvements, and some work to start on Hackberry Flat Pipeline project. In the Fish Division, we have $10,926,861. That's going to include large rock additions at Byron and a truck bed and tank for a truck at Holdenville Hatchery. Law enforcement budget is $13,451,394. That's going to include add-ons from last year for new pistols. So they'll be trading in their existing pistols for new ones and getting those for $250 a piece. Having a hard time getting ammo and having some failures in their weapons, so they're going to purchase new ones. And then C&E total $3,792,894, and their addition is for targeted marketing funds. This matches grant funds to do some targeted marketing work, and we get a really good return for our dollar on those. So for our total for all divisions for operations, $54,634,948. Capital expenditures, you can see $39,854. The refunds and transfers to the lifetime licenses, those are just budgeted so that they can come in and go out. We have to have a matching line item to be able to have those work through our budget. So those are net, no impact on those. I also note here that this includes a minimum of 3% increase for all employees, a cost of living adjustment, and also consideration was given to a COLA increase for retirees, but we are unable to do anything at this time due to budget constraints.
Might also just highlight in that too, she mentioned the add-on project to get the Hackberry Flat Pipeline project kind of started, at least with the engineering work and that sort of thing, and that's going to happen if the budget is approved, of course, with us providing 75% from PR grants and the foundation providing 25% non-federal match to get that project kicked off. So that's another example where the foundation's helping us where we need it, which is often difficult for us to get that non-federal match.
So this is a roll-up of the revenue summary. At the top, you'll see the lifetime license sales. Those get transferred to the lifetime license trust fund. Same with the senior license sales. Then our spendable revenue down at the bottom, we have estimated license sales going down just slightly based on the trends that we're seeing in the license sales. Other sales, and then ag and oil lease, grant revenue, interest income, miscellaneous income. That includes a large contribution that we budgeted this year, and then the sale of fixed assets there at the bottom. So for a total of spendable revenue, $93,873,640. And then we have carryover funds of $1 million. That gives us the total available funds of $94,873,640. Our budget is $99,242,642. So we have a draw of $4,753,040 from the expendable portion of the lifetime license trust fund. So that leaves us $384,038 of unbudgeted unspent revenue for FY23 in our proposal. Revenue detail, if you all are interested in any of the detail on how we came up to those revenue estimates, there's several pages of that for you. And then our proposed capital expenditures here, and then I'll answer any questions. We have ranges totaling $1,231,082. You'll see some of those in various stages of their completion, so they have various levels of spend attached to them. Boating access projects, $1,097,884. Arcadia, various projects at Arcadia, $832,000. Various habitat projects, that's 15 to 17 habitat projects, $2,805,723. Renovations for the Watonga Dam is $3,663,619. The last block there on your sheet is land acquisitions, $27,916,234. The second column is the state license revenue that's used to match, and you'll notice that all of the land purchases have federal reimbursement, NERDA, or contributions attached to them and no state license revenue. And then our land leases totaling $2,308,113 for a grand total of $39,854,655. And I'll pause there and answer any questions.
If you would go back one, I might just point out to the commission as well on, at the bottom of that list of land acquisitions, the bulk of those are in holdings or adjacent to our existing wildlife management areas, with the exception for the last one, which is one we're budgeting for, that we're exploring this partnership with Pheasant Forever, Quail Forever, that is not really ripe for to bring specifically before the commission other than as a budget item at this point. But that one, we hope that partnership results in Pheasant Forever, Quail Forever raising the money for the non-federal match portion of that. But whatever happens with any of these land acquisitions, as we always do, we'll bring them to the commission at the time that they're really kind of ripe for acquisition, so that we can discuss those, and you all have the opportunity to vote up or down on those acquisitions specifically if we get them to the starting line and ready to go. In fact, there's two of those that are on the agenda for agenda item number 15 today that we will have the opportunity to discuss specifics on in executive session if you'd like. And then those are regarding, those are Sandy Sanders land acquisition, and they are, what's the other one? James Collins, right? Yeah. So those two on the budget properties we'll discuss later in the agenda. The rest of those are merely budgeted at this time, may or may not do them. It'll be at the commission's discretion. So,
Amanda, I believe you had a slide we reviewed in committee last week that showed a recap of the budget without the land acquisition numbers in there and what those percentages totaled, if I recall right.
Well,
You may not have that
I know,
here.
I was like, I don't think we had one, but other than at the start, so the total for all the divisions without capital expenditures, so that's that bottom block. So if you want to just look at the total for the divisions, 53 million, or 54,634,948. Capital is 39, so if you subtracted the land purchases, I could give you that total, but it would reduce that by quite a bit.
And the point being on that when you look at a 21% increase in overall budget over last year, the vast majority of those dollars are associated with potential land acquisitions that would be 100%, and the bulk, the largest numbers of those would be 100% offset with contributions, as JD mentioned earlier. So I just wanted to point that out.
yeah, no, that's a great point, because you can see there the division budgets on this slide are fairly flat relative to what they were last year. So, and in fact, in all cases on those land acquisitions, we've identified non-federal match that does not come from our state license dollars. So we have quite a bit of Pittman-Robertson money to spend on the wildlife restoration side of things, and the struggle has always been coming up with the non-federal match in order to tap into that stuff. So,
So land total is 27.9 million, and of the total, 39.8 million. So if that was removed, we would be consistent with our budget for FY '22.
Any more questions for Amanda? Thank you, Amanda.
Chairwoman
Thank you.
Gaddis, the Finance Committee did meet last Thursday. I thought we had a really good discussion. We went into a lot of detail on many of these areas. You know, the Wildlife Department's not immune from inflation. There is a lot of inflation on vehicle purchases, all type of capital expenditures. We would like to have done more on wages and COLA, but with budget restraints, we really didn't feel like we could do that right now. With that said, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the budget as presented.
Second.
Second, do we have any more discussion? Then roll call, please.
Commissioner Brewster? Aye. Commissioner Barwick? Aye. Commissioner Mabry?
Aye.
Commissioner Holder? Aye. Commissioner Zups? Aye. Commissioner Dillingham? Aye. Commissioner Kane?
Aye.
Commissioner Gaddis?
Aye. Thank you, Amanda. Next is Bill Dinkins with
Good morning, Commissioners. As I do normally around this time of year, bringing you a couple of resolutions for consideration. Let's start with the migratory bird one first. I'd like to recognize James Murrell. If you would, James, stand up, please. And Jerry Shaw. They are our staff members that represent us on the Central Flyway Council, working with Fish and Wildlife Service and the other 4 flyways to evaluate through the adaptive harvest management model, you know, what our populations are looking like, and then bring forth a resolution to you all for consideration. So the good news is we're still in what they call the liberal package, 6-bird bag. One of the major noteworthy changes is the merganser limit used to be separate from the duck limit of 5, and they're rolling that into the 6-bird bag limit for ducks. The other part of that equation was you could only kill 2 hooded mergansers. So now with this resolution, you'll be able to kill up to 6. So that's probably the biggest noteworthy change. All the other adjustments are for calendar roll to try to maximize and maintain opening weekends opportunity. And then the other was the falconry season. If y'all recall last year, we hosted the North American Falconers Association, and you all allowed us to move the dove season to accommodate them at their request. And so the proposal in the resolution is to move that season back to our traditional falconry dove dates, which basically moved it from November last year back to February, March. So that's all the changes on the table. I'll be glad to answer any questions or lean on James or Jerry if I missed something.
Do we have any questions for Bill? Resolution?
Ms. Chairwoman, the Rules Committee met and discussed these rules, and as for the emergency migratory bird rules, and we recommend approval as presented, and I so move.
Second. Okay, any more discussion?
Second.
Commissioner Brewster?
Aye.
Commissioner Barwick?
Aye.
Commissioner Mabry?
Aye.
Commissioner Holder?
Aye.
Commissioner Zelps?
Aye.
Commissioner Dillingham?
Aye.
Commissioner Kane?
Aye.
Commissioner Gaddis?
Aye. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
You're up again.
Yes, ma'am. So the next one is our antlerless resolution. With this one, I'm going to recognize Eric Suttles, our Southeast Region Supervisor, Dallas Barber, our big game biologist. Eric called a meeting in Southeast Oklahoma with Law Enforcement Fish Division. Dallas came down and presented some of the data on harvest numbers. So the only change for consideration in the antlerless resolution is to open Zone 10 to the holiday antlerless season. Currently, Zone 1 and Zone 10 are the only 2 closed to the holiday antlerless season. So the recommendation from staff is to provide additional opportunities, and we've had several landowners request it also, by the way, and go to that 2-week season in December, 2 deer limit. And that's the only change in front of you to consider.
And for those that don't recall the zone map, that's southeast Oklahoma essentially. So it will leave Holiday Antlerless closed in Zone 1 only, which is Texas and Cimarron County up in the Panhandle.
Correct.
Which is mostly mule deer, so.
Correct.
Mr. Chairwoman, the Rules Committee met and discussed, and we're always for more opportunity for our sportsmen, so we recommend approval as presented, and I so move.
Okay. Any more discussion? We have a motion and a second? Okay.
Commissioner Brewster.
Aye.
Commissioner Barwick. Commissioner Mabry. Commissioner Holder. Commissioner Zelps. Commissioner Dillingham. Commissioner Kane. Commissioner Gaddis.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. All right, our next item, thinking we need a motion for executive session.
I move that we go into executive session to consider item number 15.
Madam Chairman, just a moment before we go into executive session back to it, I'd just like to make a statement. I've been gone 7 months, trying time of my life, and it happened quite suddenly to get there. But the contacts I've had from the people, thoughts, prayers.
Making sure you're on there.
I think you probably heard me the first part. But anyway, the thoughts, prayers, contacts from the people were quite important. When you spend 73 days in the hospital getting chemo, radiation, and a process called CAR-T, where they take your white cells, give them treatment, inject them back in you with the thought that they'll kill cancer cells. At any contacts back here were quite important. In Houston, Texas, you don't hear a lot about what's going on in Oklahoma, I can agree. And it was quite heartening to me to hear from the people that we did. And I just want to thank you. The last 2 tests, 30 days apart, showed no sign of cancer. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't come back, so they frequently do, but we're quite hopeful it's in submission for permanence. We'll see. Thank you to all of you.
Well, prayers answered, for sure.
Bill, we're glad you're back. Thank you.
Very glad you're back.
Did we vote on that motion?
No, we didn't.
Not
We-
yet.
Okay, we did
Okay,
not.
we have a motion and a second already. So Commissioner Brewster.
Aye.
Commissioner Barwick.
Aye.
Commissioner Mabry. Commissioner Holder.
Aye.
Commissioner Zelps.
Aye.
Commissioner Dillingham.
Aye.
Commissioner Kane. Commissioner Gaddis.
All right, thank you.
So we'll go back.
Treatment, Jim, this CAR-T treatment. It's the future of cancer treatment.
They're on the truck down there.
And then if I'm going to use something that I actually have to rig, it's going to be weightless and weedless on a 3/0, 4/0, or 5/0 hook that looks just like this. I like owner hooks. They're a thick wire, they really sharp point, but Gamakatsu, Eagle.
Well, hello and welcome to Outdoor Oklahoma. I'm Todd Craighead. For several decades, the Wildlife Department has hosted fishing clinics all across the state. But as our world has changed around us, we in turn have had to learn to adapt and grow in response. So a new era of additional fishing clinics are now offered virtually. They're still conducted live by our fishing coordinator, but we're able now to reach a whole new audience. These Ask an Angler virtual fishing courses are not intended to replace the traditional in-person clinics like at a city park pond, but it offers us an opportunity to go more in depth with certain subjects. So if you're wanting to get, say, into the weeds on things like pre-spawn bass tips, or maybe winter pond fishing techniques, or crappie fishing tips, these virtual classes are perfect. You can either watch them live or find them on our Outdoor Oklahoma YouTube channel.
a wildlife department that adapts its ways of communication to help make you the most educated and effective sportsman you can be. Just another reason to love Oklahoma and the adventures that await you.
Well, it's been a while since our last catfishing episode, and I know there's a lot of you out there who really enjoy bank fishing for catfish just as much as I do, so we're going to give it another try today. In our first episode, we focused on points that jut out into lakes. That's one of my favorite spots to fish, especially if there's been a headwind or a flanking headwind blowing into that point. Sometimes very productive for catfish in lakes. The next episode, we just fished an old mud flat. Many of our lakes here in Oklahoma have, especially on the upper end of the lakes, mud flats with basically no topography, no structure to speak of, no variation in depth, all the things you normally look for in a good catfishing spot. But those mud flats get really, really productive, especially in the springtime, particularly when the shad start spawning and you can really fill up a stringer sometimes. But we're going to switch gears today a little bit and employ one of my favorite tactics for bank fishing for catfish, and that's fishing in running water after a flooding rain, which is what we've had here in the Texoma region. We've had an exceptionally dry spring. Today's the last day of April, but a couple of days ago we finally got that big rain, over 4 inches in most of the basin of Texoma. And as you can see behind me here, the water's running. There's many creeks that run into Texoma. This is one in particular that's just starting to widen out into the lake, which is a place I really like to target when it's running. Still a lot of foam and debris coming down. There's a lot of rough fish in here, carp, buffalo, gar, drum. Hopefully we can wade through them and catch a couple of catfish, because catfish love to nose up into fresh, muddy water. Now that's probably an oxymoron, but you know what I mean. When the flooding water comes down these creeks, it brings all types of nutrients and bait, all types of dead material washing down, and they basically go on a feeding frenzy. And hopefully we'll have some up in here looking to eat today. Now what I'm going to use today, and these are basically 6-foot Walmart specials. And I have old Ambassador 5000s on each of them. I bought them used off of eBay. And anyone in the know on catfishing reels knows that an old Ambassador 5000, especially the old Swedish models, are fantastic. Maybe one of the best, if not the best, overall catfishing reel. If you take even decent care of them, they can last you years and perhaps even decades. I've got them spooled up with Berkley Trilene Big Game 30-pound test line, so we can hold anything if we happen to get a hold of a big one today. And basically, my setup is real simple, same as always. I got a 4-ounce bank sinker on the bottom. Up above that, about 1.5 feet, I'll tie a leader into my line, probably 10 inches, and then have a Eagle Claw wide bend laser sharp number 4 hook on that. I also always bring my favorite rod with me. It'll hopefully see some action at some point today. It's just a real limber, medium action, again, Walmart 6-foot rod that I've got an old Shimano Calcutta with 20-pound Berkley Big Game line on, because, you know, I get a fish on that and it kind of harkens back to the cane pole days with all of the flexibility. So I always enjoy catching fish on that as well. Bait for today, now in running water, almost any bait will work, because they're out here looking for anything they can get a hold of to eat. Worms, crawdads, cut perch, chicken liver, shad, you name it. But my go-to bait is always fresh shad. And I was fortunate enough to catch some big gizzard shads a few days ago in my cast net. Now I'll mention something about shad too. The little shad don't last very long, a day or two, and they start getting soft and they won't stay on your hook very well. But I want you to know those big gizzard shad, if you'll take care of them, keep them relatively dry and packed in ice, they're good to go for a week and even more. In fact, these shad I have today, I've got cut up into chunks, but they're 5 days old, so we'll see how they work out. I also have some earthworms. Of course, that's a fantastic bait in running water. The earthworms I have, I actually grow myself. I had an old boy that was throwing away a chest-type freezer. It was inoperable, and so he gave it to me for free. I bought a 50-pound bag of what's called spangled peat moss from Walmart. I saturated that peat moss, set it in the bottom of that chest freezer, probably about a foot deep. Put my earthworms in there. They're called Georgia Browns. They're not as long as a night crawler, but they're real fishy worms. They'll definitely catch catfish if there's any around. And I feed them about once a week with chicken crumbles. It's basically chicken feed. You can get a 50-pound bag at a feed store for $7, $8. And if you think about it, you can hardly buy 2 containers of night crawlers at the bait shop for that much money. So it's pretty economical. And I keep that chest freezer on the north side of my shop building so it doesn't get that direct hot sunlight during the summer. And they'll keep all year round and they'll reproduce in there. So you'll always have bait available when it's time to go fishing. And lastly, I've got some grub worms. Just white grubs, beetle grubs. I don't use them very often because I don't find them, quite frankly, very often. But funny story, a couple of days ago we was having one of those big deluges of rain, and I looked outside. I have a dog, it's a shepherd mix named Shep, real original I know, but he was a rescue dog, and I saw him eating stuff off of the ground, running here and there. I didn't have any idea what he was doing, so I went out there to take a look, and those grub worms were coming up out of that wet ground to get out of the water, and he was picking them off one by one and swallowing them down, kind of like a great blue heron swallowing a perch or something. I didn't know dogs would eat grub worms, but this one will. Maybe he's watched too many episodes of Naked and Afraid, I'm not sure, but I was able to get ahead of him and get me about a dozen, so we'll put grub worm on one of these poles and see if it'll produce. Grub worm was always one of my dad's favorite fishing baits, and my dad and I, this time of year in April, would always take a week. I would take off work. We would fish all week, every day, bank fishing for catfish. We did that for decades. And he passed away last day of November in 2020, died of COVID-19 actually. And so I'm gonna dedicate this day to him because I know he would love to be here today. Now he lived a long life. He was just 2 weeks shy of 95 years old, healthy the whole time, World War II, Battle of the Bulge vet. So he had a full life and he's gone on to his reward, so that's a good thing. But we'll dedicate this day to him. But enough talking, we're gonna get these baited out and tossed in and see if we can get a rod to bend. We'll put a piece of cut shad on this first one here. And I've cut these shad up. They come off of a big shad. I just fillet them off of the shad and then cut them into, probably 2-inch strips that are probably a 1/2 inch wide. Now the thing to remember is you want to have plenty of your hook exposed after you put this chunk of shad on there. So just come down probably 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch below the top of the cut bait, bring it through, make sure any scales that were on the barb or the tip of the hook are removed, so you have that sharp hook and your barb available. And that's a good thing about these wide bend hooks. You have plenty of hook remaining because that's a big bait and you don't want to get the bait over the point of your hook or you'll lose the hook set every time. Put that one right out by that floating debris out there. That's always a little bit of structure. Even in running water, I like to target it. We're going to put a grub worm on this hook. It's one of those big white grubs I was talking to you about earlier. Now, one thing I will do with these, they've got a natural bend in them, and if you bring the hook through that natural bend, sometimes that worm will be in the way of your point. So what I'll do is come behind the head there, the opposite direction of the bend, cast that out and see if something's interested in a grub today. Put some earthworms on this one. These are those little Georgia brown worms that I was telling you about earlier. They're not big, but they're active. And I don't think there's any proper way to hook worms on. I have a way I do it. I like to leave as much of the worm wiggling off of the hook as possible. So I'll basically grab I'll come down from one end of the worm just a few millimeters, bring the point of the hook through, maybe a 1/4 inch, bring it back out, fold the worm over, do that again, and then come back out of the worm before I reach his other tip. So you have all of those worm tips floundering around out in the water. I think that's a good thing. I like a full hook of worms as long as I've got plenty of the end of the hook exposed, the tip of the hook. That'll do it. It's on those earthworm. First fish of the day. She's coming to her milk. Nice one. That's what it's all about. Fish on the little pole. That one hit a piece of that shad. We got here another blue cat. Now that's the kind of action we like to see right there. He's talking to us. He's loquacious. As Carl from Sling Blade might say, I like the way you talk. Anyway, this is a blue cat. Of course, they're generally lighter in color than a channel cat, but the best way to identify them, because sometimes in certain water turbidities they look kind of similar, especially a bull-headed channel cat can resemble a blue cat out of clearer water. On the anal fin here, a blue cat is blunt, straight across, B and B. A channel cat is curved, C and C. That's how I always remember them. But yeah, that's a pretty Lake Texoma blue cat right there. Really good eating size. I figure that fish will weigh 4 pounds maybe. That one's gonna weigh about 7.5 pounds. He's fat, meaty, makes some fine fillets. Well, right on time. There's a little channel cat. We can take a look at it and the difference between it and a blue cat. Oh, he's talkative too. Now, these channel cat are usually golden colored, of course, and a lot of times we'll have some spots or speckles on them. But again, that anal fin down at the bottom, you'll see that it's got a curve to it. Unlike a blue cat, that'll be blunt, straight across. So channel curve, blue cat blunt. And normally you can tell just at a glance by their color and so forth, but occasionally they look fairly similar, and that's the best way to scientifically tell the difference. But we'll let him grow a little bit. Hello. Yeah. Tell you what, I take those all day long, twice on Sunday. Really nice eating size channel cats. Doesn't have to be worms. I think I'm gonna string him up. I don't know what the bite force is on these channel cat, but it's up there.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brewster.
Aye.
Commissioner Barwick.
Aye.
Commissioner Mabry. Commissioner Holder. Commissioner Zelps.
Aye.
Commissioner Dillingham.
Aye.
Commissioner Kane. Commissioner Gaddis.
Aye. Okay, we have another Bill Pinkins again. Well, did we have a motion?
I think we just need a motion.
Yeah, we have a motion from the executive session. Do we have?
Chairman, we discussed these sorry about that. We discussed these properties in executive session, and we would like, or I would like to make a motion to authorize the director to pursue the purchase of 2 properties near the Sandy Sanders Wildlife Management Area, and another property that's an in-holding at the James Collins Wildlife Management Area.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
I might just point out too, as discussed in executive session, all 3 of those properties will not require any state match to be associated with it, given that we can use land at Sandy Sanders as match, as well as donations and NERDA money for the James Collins property.
Yes. Any further discussion before roll call? Okay.
Commissioner Brewster?
Aye.
Commissioner Barwick?
Aye.
Commissioner Mabry?
Aye.
Commissioner Holder?
Abstain.
Commissioner Zelps?
Aye.
Commissioner Dillingham?
Aye.
Commissioner Kane?
Aye.
Commissioner Gaddis?
Aye. All right, next item, do we have a report from Commissioner Barwick?
Yes, Commissioners, I am pleased to announce the new officers of the Oklahoma Wildlife Conservation Foundation are Reagan Siegfried as president, Ethan House as vice president, and Richard Hatcher as secretary-treasurer. Also, the foundation board approved reappointment of John Grondike, Jim Johnson, John Zelps, and Blake Shelton to the board, and appointed Barry Bolton to the board, replacing Gene Cates, who unfortunately had some health issues. The director appointments are subject to approval by the commission, and I make a motion to approve the reappointments and the appointment as presented.
We have a second. Do we have any discussion? Okay. Roll
Commissioner
call.
Brewster?
Aye.
Commissioner Barwick?
Aye.
Commissioner Mabry?
Aye.
Commissioner Holder?
Aye.
Commissioner Zelps?
Aye.
Commissioner Dillingham?
Aye.
Commissioner Kane?
Aye.
Commissioner Gaddis?
Aye. Next item, Commissioner Zelps, I think you have a report from the nominating committee?
Yes, ma'am. The nomination committee has met and unanimously have nominated Chairman Gaddis as chairman, James Barwick as vice chairman, and Rick Holder as secretary to serve 1 more term. That is my motion.
Second?
You have a second? Any discussion? Roll call?
Commissioner Brewster?
Aye.
Commissioner Barwick?
Aye.
Commissioner Mabry?
Aye.
Commissioner Holder?
Aye.
Commissioner Zelps?
Aye.
Commissioner Dillingham?
Aye.
Commissioner Kane?
Aye.
Commissioner Gaddis?
Aye.
I might just mention for those that were tuned in online that might not have heard that, the motion was to renominate the existing officers to serve another year term, so.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next item, any new business that was unforeseen?
None.
Could not be scheduled? Okay. And with that, the next meeting will be held July 5th.
It will not
Oh,
be.
I'm sorry. The next July 5th meeting has been canceled, and we will reconvene in August. And thank you all again for coming.
What will be the day of the next meeting?
I think
The
it's
date.
August 1st, if I,
Hackberry.
it's the first Monday.
Oh.
Hey, all you outdoor Oklahoma lovers. I'm J.D. Strong, Director of Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation. And on behalf of our 350 employees, we want to say thank you. In this unprecedented time, there's no question that there's been a lot that has confronted us as a society and as Oklahomans. But in the midst of those dark clouds, there's been a silver lining. People have been getting outdoors in droves. And because of that, we are able to see increased license sales, increased support for all things wildlife and fisheries conservation, and we're able to continue to host events like this state FFA shooting competition that we have going on behind us today. So without that support, without those license sales, we would not be able to put on stuff like this. If you didn't know it, we're a non-appropriated agency, so we get no help from the state legislature or taxpayers.
So we depend heavily on those license sales as well as the sale of sporting equipment, guns, ammunition, fishing poles, bows and arrows, you name it. All of those purchases go towards us being able to get the next generation engaged in hunting and shooting sports, as well as other outdoor adventures, fishing, that sort of thing. So on behalf of the Department of Wildlife, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for bringing us this silver lining in the midst of all these dark clouds that we faced as a result of COVID. Get out there and continue to support wildlife conservation through the purchase of your hunting and fishing license. And don't forget, our outdoors are always open. Hey all you outdoor Oklahoma lovers, I'm J.D. Strong, Director of Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation. And on behalf of our 350 employees, we want to say thank you. In this unprecedented time, there's no question that there's been a lot that has confronted us as a society and as Oklahomans. But in the midst of those dark clouds, there's been a silver lining. People have been getting outdoors in droves. And because of that, we are able to see increased license sales, increased support for all things wildlife and fisheries conservation, and we're able to continue to host events like this state FFA shooting competition that we have going on behind us today. So without that support, without those license sales, we would not be able to put on stuff like this. If you didn't know it, we're a non-appropriated agency, so we get no help from the state legislature or taxpayers. So we depend heavily on those license sales as well as the sale of sporting equipment, guns, ammunition, fishing poles, bows and arrows, you name it. All of those purchases go towards us being able to get the next generation engaged in hunting and shooting sports, as well as other outdoor adventures, fishing, that sort of thing. So on behalf of the Department of Wildlife, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for bringing us this silver lining in the midst of all these dark clouds that we faced as a result of COVID. Get out there and continue to support wildlife conservation through the purchase of your hunting and fishing license. And don't forget, our outdoors are always open.